Oh, gee, the camera turned on. Alright, making a response video to Section F, Extinction. Probably should have been E, Extinction, but whatever. The Pseudo-Goal, AntiBullshitMan's blog. So, his quibble, let's call it a quibble this time, is that the anti-natalist, generally speaking, idea of even the anti-natalist idea of human extinction is too extreme. That the only thing you really have to make extinct is the dissatisfied human, I suppose, or the potentially not satisfied with the arrangement human. So even if they're delusional, but they think they're winning, it's okay to leave them to it. And although he says in conversations I've had with him that he cares a lot about the animal circumstance and all that stuff, and that's a non-starter, so to speak, like you're not allowed to exploit animals, he doesn't really explain how the humans can remain without the sentient mammals remaining. So I don't know. Anyway, so I have bolded some of this, and so I'll try to make some sort of coherent response to it. Inmendham's recurring claim that most people already behave like anti-natalists because they don't have more than 2 kids is false. So he claims that it's false. I mean, it just can't be false. It's impossible for it to be false. It's a simple claim. If you're an anti-natalist, you would replicate less than sustainable population. This population would decline ultimately to 0. So there would be a growth, a curve that would end in 0. It couldn't go anywhere else but 0, ultimately. And that would be behavior consistent with anti-natalism. I mean, I suppose natalism by itself, you could argue, okay, that having any children at all is against some sort of idea of anti-natalism. But I think for most anti-natalists, the idea is anti-procreation, or more specifically anti-perpetuation, and having some curve that's taken place in. I mean, you don't think that the brick wall thing is going to happen. You're going to be provided that opportunity, so you figure it's going to have to be a gradual stroll, stage left, something like that. Anyway, okay, it's false both from a standpoint of abrasion, I don't know what that means, and from a behavioral overview. Again, it's just not true. I mean, the point is that the human race goes extinct by the behavior of most of the human race. Most of the human race does not breed sufficiently to maintain human existence. That's a fact. Anti-natalists would have humans extinct. The two things are completely consistent, and the argument is just that the only thing standing in the way isn't the behavior of most people, it's the attitude of most people. So if most people change their attitude, they don't have to compromise their behavior. They can behave exactly the way they behave now. All they have to do is change their attitude and say, yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to put a cork in those people having 8 kids. That's all we need. That's the difference between winning and losing, is just getting most people to agree that people shouldn't have 8 kids. That quote also happens to be my #1 pet peeve as far as his arsenal of recurrent statements go. Yeah, well, there's lots of things you say that I find nauseating, but whatever, I don't make a book out of it. Where, pray tell, might one find this guideline going over how to behave like an anti-natalist? Well, again, it was only used for one specific point, to just make the specific point that that most people don't have to change their behavior at all. Okay, they don't have to sacrifice anything in terms of their behavior to be on board with a system of Earth depopulation, because they're already behaving as Earth depopulationists. Fact. Alright, so behave like anti-nihilists. Must have missed that memo, as did eminent ANs like Schopenhauer. I don't know, is he really an AN? I mean, he was a little bit, Buddhist weird. But whatever, I'm not going to get into that argument. Okay. According to inmendham, amounts to behavior amounts to all behavior being fair game. Okay, according to inmendham, behaving like an anti-nihilist amounts to all behavior being fair game so long as one reproduces at a rate that's insufficient to maintain human existence. Yeah, that's pretty much. The point of anti-natalism is reduction of human, reduction of decreases in population growth would be consistent with most anti-natalist objectives. So yes, I think that's a fair sentence. Anyway, all right, let me get to this stuff. Individuals who take pills would have to forfeit their Social Security benefits. Okay, so now he has this thought experiment where it's similar to ones I've proposed, not as thought experiments, but as practical facts that will face the future if the future exists. So the idea would be that people would have this pill that would give them eternal life, so to speak. I mean, I don't think they could, obviously it's not going to make them indestructible, but they won't die of disease. And the exchange for that would be it causes infertility. Obviously, in the real future, such a pill probably won't cause infertility, so we will have to deal with these real issues. And in the very near future, producing babies is not going to require biological gestation, and that's when this thing's really going to get gnarly, because people won't have to get pregnant anymore to have kids very soon. Anyway, so he put in some stupid thing about the Social Security benefits. I just thought that was hilarious in the idea that if you have a eternal life pill, you're obviously going to get rid of the Social Security system, because nobody's going to want to pay Social Security for 700 years, for a retirement that never comes, where basically the only way you die is being killed. But you certainly could become disabled, I suppose, still. Paralyzed forever, or something like that. Anyway, so I don't know if it's not a very interesting thought experiment as a thought experiment. Once the age surpasses that of the median age, blah, blah, blah. According to surveys, the majority of seniors are elated at the prospect of the pills. Well, of course the seniors would be, blah, 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 who cares? My question is simply, would you stop them? So would you stop people from taking a pill that gave them eternal life? And I suppose the argument would be, yes, some people you'd stop, some people you wouldn't, I suppose, right? I mean, you control what retards can do, so it just depends on who you declare to be a retard, right? Pretty much. Would it be ethical to prevent fully grown adults, well, fully how big they are doesn't mean much, from having access to the pills in order to decrease long-term net suffering of the precious, so you put that in quotes, so he's sort of making fun of the word precious commodity of sentience ingrained in them and their newfound longevity. So again, would you is fine. I mean, I mean, if I'm going to simply answer the question, I'm going to say that I believe anybody who would invest in eternal life is stupid. And it really depends on what the infrastructure equation is again. So your thought experiment said nothing about the rest of the biosphere. So if you're saying these humans are going to have eternal life in a mechanical system that provides them with oxygen and food at no cost to animals, sentient animals, well, we can negotiate. But you didn't include that as part of this equation. I'm not going to let them enslave animals for another 500,000 years of their whatever. They'll never last that long, but whatever. I mean, that's the magic of it. It's not so much about whether you would stop them or not, because practicality is going to stop them. Obviously, every one of those individuals would eventually find some way to do something catastrophically stupid to destroy their physical integrity. If you believe that stopping them from prolonging their existence is ethical on account of the net product, you're an unconditional extinctionist. Okay, well, who cares about these titles? Oh, let's all play the titling game. No, let's not. Yeah, fuck that shit. In most people's eyes, the moniker anti-natalist is synonymous with extinctionist. Yet I'm confident that more than 2/3 of anti-natalists would partake in answering of this question will not take issue with individual adults opting to take pills in question. So he's confident that 2/3 of the anti-natalists would say it's okay for humans to take whatever eternal life pills, and he provides no. So most anti-natalists, he's saying 2/3 of anti-natalists wouldn't first ask the question, well, what about the rest of the biosphere? So he's basically conceding my point, which is that most anti-natalists don't give this much thought, because 99.99% of the sentient suffering takes place in other animal organisms besides human beings. So if you don't have a solution for that problem in your thought experiment, it's got a big gaping vaginal orifice for fucking with facts. Anyway, had this question been asked around the corners of YouTube inhabited by people who self-identify as ethilists, well, in a sense, I've already raised the question, because I've already raised the issue that these are going to be real social issues, and I've even said, I've even made the point that even if you had such a technology that didn't make people sterile, but the bargain was to take the pill, you had to accept infertility. That had to be the agreement. You couldn't take the eternal life pill unless you got sterilized. My argument is that most people would trade their fertility for eternal life, demonstrating that they don't have any real necessary need to have babies, and that if you gave them a better present, a better thing to play with themselves, they would do it. They would sacrifice their insatiable need to have children. Yes, if you gave them the right bribe. Yeah. I'd do a about face on my prediction. It's safe to assume that garden variety ethilists would think it ethically justifiable to stop adults. Again, stop adults. There has to be some standard of competence. Alright, if there's somebody who's going to make a rational argument, I'm not going to get in their way. But if people are believing in fantasies and fables and fairy tales, then they're delusional, and I'll get in their way. Shit. Again, you take care of retards. You don't abandon them to the desert of their ignorance. Likewise, we can deride natalism without enumerating ourselves with positive extinctionism and can of worms it brings to the table. Positive extinctionism. This is stuff nobody ever says. This is why I remain unperturbed by Benatar's goal-oriented writings or the unnuanced wiki article on antinatalism. Yeah, well, whatever, yeah, okay, so you don't want to be an antinatalist because you don't believe life is fundamentally failed. You think as long as somebody thinks they're happy, they are happy. Okay. You think individual human brains have some sort of right to respect, even if they demonstrate little or no rational function. I mean, if they can't make a rational argument, and all they can make is some argument from "I want," I mean, you know, logically, an intelligence has to say that really shouldn't be good enough. I mean, especially when you're opening a can of worms, it's very dangerous. I mean, I'm not going to go to my deathbed, you know, my antinatalist deathbed, feeling very comfortable if I'm leaving behind a bunch of motherfuckers who could at any time restart the engine, you know, they have the power to fuck the bargain they made to remain infertile. Yeah. We can legitimately abstain from subscribing to extinctionist positions as well as perpetuationist position. Oh, whatever. For me, the fundamental argument is I don't even understand antinatalism outside of the understanding that there's fundamentally a problem in the structure of life. Okay, that it doesn't come with essential ingredients like fairness and consent, and that without those elements, the game is not playable. So I don't need all this extinctionist shit. It's not just about extinction for the sake of extinction. The goal isn't extinction. The goal is fail-safe harm elimination. But whatever. Play your word games. Okay, then this would be worthwhile goal. Okay, let's see. If it is possible to preventatively weed out all zygotes that would have gone on to regret being born and spare them the hassle of finding this out the hard way by thwarting their birth beforehand, then this would be worthwhile goal. I'd apply force to achieve. So he'd apply force to achieve the goal of being able to analyze zygotes and figure out that they're going to stub their toe when they're 17 and realize pain sucks and not want to live anymore. I don't think you can figure out. I don't think we're antinatalists in the womb. This willingness on my part still wouldn't morph my position into one of ethical extinctionism. Yeah, again, you either think life works or you don't think life works. So your claim is that as long as there's a smile on Hitler's face, it works. And, you know, it doesn't matter, really, it just doesn't matter what kind of behavior is engaged in. As long as the asshole says, I'm having a good time, you're going to say they're having a good time. I don't buy the argument. Unfortunately, in the here and now, we are unable to accurately predict who will regret their birth and who will not. Enter ambivalence. This is examined further in the section Approved Impositions. Oh, well, that ought to be interesting then, maybe, possibly, who knows. Anyway, so here's another something I don't know. I bolded things just, you know, randomly, almost. These include, oh, gee. Anyway, well, I'll get to the part I bolded. Despite this fertile ground, or lack of a better term, my peers' disvaluing of human extinction, even as a byproduct, continues to feed their trepidation to adjure natalism wholeheartedly. So his peers don't become natalists wholeheartedly. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't have bolded that, I suppose. Regardless of how ethically grotesque one finds natural selection to be, isn't that funny? Regardless of how grotesque. So it doesn't matter how grotesque it is. He's got some kind of regardless. Yeah, I'm sure. The number of times per week one is willing to utter gladiator wars in a video won't change this. So regardless of how grotesque natural selection is, using the metaphor gladiator wars to describe the reality of the game we're playing is somehow invalid or pointless or stupid or whatever. I don't think there's any rational complaint with that metaphor being used to describe natural selection. I think it's a very accurate way to describe what takes place. The number of losers is very large, the number of winners is very small, and their victory is very short. And so I think the metaphor fits, and I think you're just a gaping cunt. Because unpopular narratives of this sort are intrinsically hostile to preference maximization. Well, that's just too interesting. even under instances where term harm exchange ultimatums don't counter in. Well, I don't even know what the fuck that means, so I guess I'll just tell along. Yeah, fuck it. What is this crap? By favoring this formula, one endorses instant painless murder and undermines the preferences of sound-minded adults. Well, okay, that's the key phrase, sound-minded adult. I wonder what that is exactly. How do you test for that? What do you have to know to be sound-minded, and what do you have to not know to be sound-minded? Yeah, so he doesn't like negative utilitarianism. He doesn't like a lot of things. Seeing as the unneeded need is equivalent to the unneeded needlessness, deliberate perpetuation and deliberate extinction are both problematic. Seeing as the unneeded need is equivalent to the unneeded needlessness. I don't know how that they can be possibly equivalent. The fact that nothing is not needed is okay, yeah, clearly. But the fact that need isn't needed is clearly interesting. So the argument is that the fact that nothing is interesting. But the argument being made essentially is that something is nothing. Okay, it has no character. So we're basically arguing that a thing that everybody thinks has value or merit, this idea of need, isn't have any merit. That it's as vacant as the non-need. It doesn't have any need. It doesn't have any. It doesn't generate the very thing it professes to claim. Cause to. So I mean the word, like I said, a need envisions something, and what the argument being made is that there's no need behind the need. So need gives things integrity. You can say you can speed to go to a fire because you need to get there fast so that you can save people. So there's a need that makes it imminent. And what's being argued is that no, that fundamental need doesn't exist when it comes to the need creating. That you don't need to create the need to go rescue somebody in the first place, so it's an unneeded need, and by that standard has no distinction from a situation where you don't have a justification because you don't have a need that needs to be served. It's convoluted, but I think people can understand that if there's no need behind a need, if there's nothing making the need credible, then the need is irrelevant. Anyway. Alright, sound-minded. Seeing as, okay, I need provisional extinctionist, a label I'll comfortably apply to myself whenever the above immortality pill scenario is stubbornly rejected as a conversation starter. Whenever provisional extinctionist, when people won't accept the pill scenario, I don't know, who cares. Alright, so then he claims I believe in unsolicited mercy killings. So again, anytime you take claim to be more competent than somebody else, anything you do then can be called a tyranny, even if it's the only way to. I mean, it's tyranny. We have tyranny over the retarded and the incompetent now. It's tyranny over the mentally insane. It's a tyranny. I think you got to prove that. So until you prove the tyranny, until you prove they're right and I'm wrong, or they have some sort of measurably equal credibility in their philosophy, I'm going to claim a right. Alright, the coming decade will see a number of minors whose lives will be supervised by their parents and even micromanaged from dusk to dawn. In extreme cases, many minors will hear strategic ultimatums such as long as you live under my roof, you'll do as I say, or other popular, you'll thank me when you're older, Brand, I don't know why I bothered with this part. Yeah, he doesn't think much of parents, that's for sure. So I agree with him there. Alright, so here he's taking a shot at the janitor thing. We as efficient janitors are to solely concern ourselves with cleaning up messes regardless of whose property the mess happens to have been made on. Well, that's right. Establishing property rights here is pretty difficult, especially, like I said, when 99.99% of the problem exists on property for which there is no competent owner. Without any regard for whether the property owners made the mess themselves, and without even asking the mess makers, well, again, you know, figuring out that somebody's addicted to heroin because of their own stupid behavior doesn't really change the fact that they're addicted to heroin, and you know, do something about it. If they mind their own malady. If the mess makers are fully grown adults, again, fully grown adults, I don't know why this is the standard. So you're against all these other kind of crap parental standards of integrity and cultural standards of integrity that are just vacant based on established traditions, and then you'll say something like fully grown adult should somehow be the standard, whatever that means. What's an adult? And fully grown, what does that mean? I mean, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. Who inform us that they'd rather take the bad with the good and maintain their messy condition. Their request is to be ignored. Well, their request has to be conditionally accepted, and the conditions are that, yeah, they can't reinitiate the bad experiment, and that you somehow are going to take care of maintaining their existence without them having slave animals to maintain their biosphere for them. Their mess is our command. There isn't an ounce of wisdom in such value criterion. Well, I don't think there's any wisdom in knowing something's dangerous, like smallpox or something. You eradicate it in the human population, and then you're stupid enough to leave it on the shelf, you know, in a shed somewhere, you know, in a glass jar. Yeah, in an earthquake zone. Yeah, fuck that. That's stupid. Because inmendham and many of his antagonists are... Atronic... Well, whatever. A-T-R-O-C-I-O-U-S. I don't know. When it comes to the finer points of this conversation, you opting to instead waste much time arguing over theological case against natalism, leading to unfruitful discussions. Well, there you go. Stunted, unfruitful discussions. So that's the accusation of this turd bowl. You know, who writes whatever it is, a 5 million word blog post. It's just absolute fucking inane drivel and crap. Yeah, okay. He's going to tell me how to have a fruitful discussion. Fuck you. You're an idiot. Yeah, so we'll see. Okay, we'll see, asshole. We'll see who pisses on whose grave. Fucktard. Anyway. Let's see. No qualities other than character. I wonder what that was for, because I like the word character. Emotionally steered rationalizations behind the offering of preferential treatment to a select group based on qualities other than character. Oh, okay, so he's talking about racism and all that kind of shit and blah blah blah. Yeah, that's all bad, blah blah blah, who cares? But character is also meaningless if it's in the mind of a fanatic. Their arrangement is one where merit and emotional attachment are conferred not through demonstrated character nor ability. Okay, he's just complaining about families again, and yeah, obviously there's, you know, people love their parents even though they're assholes, blah blah blah, who cares? People love their kids even though they're ugly and frumpy. Contrastingly, most consequentialist arguments for extinction generally center around suffering, miss the mark. Oh yeah, they're centered around suffering, but they miss the mark because they're tailored towards sound-minded individuals who view themselves as victims of natalism just as much as they are towards non-deluded adults whom the statement "I'd rather not have been" doesn't apply, even on their deathbed. Once again, I stress that individuals mustn't be regulated to the vapid status of precious commodities. So he thinks, again, it's a vapid status to recognize that human beings are just sentient meat bags, and that's not allowed, in his opinion. We're supposed to respect their little fables of leprechauns and whatnot. Sorry, I don't have to do that. This would be inspired. There's no such thing as behaving like an anti-natalist. Well, of course there is, so you're a jerk. Alright, seeing as effalism is inmendham's brainchild, and the philosophy cogently boasts extinction as desired outcome, inmendham should just say most people already behave like effalists. It's true, and that's why I'm saying we're right on the cusp of victory. And all we have to do is seize it in the sense of recognizing that it's only the dumbest, dirtiest, stupidest, cruddiest, creepiest shitheads on this planet who are having the children that maintain our existence. And that in of itself should be a statement to the rest of humanity that, yes, we probably shouldn't be here if we don't even enjoy replicating. Most of us. Very much. Yeah. And leave the moniker of anti-natalism the hell alone. Well, whatever. I think both words, you know, effalism just means it's life spelled backwards. It's basically making a simple statement that it's life itself that's fundamentally broken, that it can't have fairness and it can't have consent, and therefore it's broken, and therefore fuck it. Where anti-natalism is basically just saying it's against some sort of idea of replicating, but it is so in some sort of more ambiguous way, like maybe people just hate humans, or maybe they just hate civilization, or maybe they just pissed off about some other bullshit, but it's a lot more ambiguous, so that's why I chose my word. And this asshole thinks I should walk around saying effalism to everybody like they're going to know what that means, and they're not. And that's why I don't use the word effalism too often, is because not too many people know what anti-natalism means, but very few know what effalism means. So why would I use the word that's even less recognized if I'm hoping to be understood? Oh, that's right, I wouldn't. Oh, God. Anyway, this is just so fucking tiresome. So anyway, I blocked this other guy, this Dr. Dissent guy, so here's the comment he posted. It would be intellectually dishonest, so he's making a clear accusation here of intellectual dishonesty, to not concede the point that value is an emergent property of intelligence. No, I'm not being intellectually dishonest to recognize that value, okay, is an emergent property of consciousness, of the ability to feel. It is the ability to feel that creates the value, and it is the ability to be intelligent that makes it possible for you to recognize the value. Recognize the value. Recognize the value created by the feeling thing having feelings. There's nothing intellectually dishonest in that theory. The fact that I have a theory that feeling things create value by feeling is not outside the boundaries of honest belief, motherfucker. Especially compared to the crap asshole motherfuckers like you believe, no doubt, you unicorn fucker. Whatever the fuck you are. So don't tell me I'm intellectually dishonest because I'm smart enough to figure out that feeling things' welfare matters. Because I'm smart enough to discover that truth. Yeah, because I feel. Duh. How could it possibly be intellectually dishonest for me to recognize the fact that I feel, and I know it, that goddamn, for like I would spend billions of dollars, I would have my right arm cut off to prevent certain kinds of suffering. I would pay huge, giant prices. How could it be intellectually honest for me to say, oh yeah, I would pay a huge price. I would pay the price of being burned to death, you know, if I could prevent my sister from dying some horrible way, right? I mean, we would do these things. We would endure horrible hardships to avoid horrible hardships. And you're going to tell me the fact that I see that in my own behavior, I could be intellectually honest and not recognize why do I do that? Oh, that's right, because I see the obvious value in avoiding harm. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're the intellectually dishonest motherfucking weasel cunt bastards. You silly people who behave as selfish motherfuckers and yet claim value relativism. Fuck. You're stupid.